What happens when a neighbor humiliates a man by calling him a servant right on his property? She has no idea that he is already filing paperwork for her daughter's house. What happened next changed the entire neighborhood beyond recognition that I should have left that bag of mulch alone. Seriously, if I just minded my own flower bed, none of this would have happened. But no, I had to go and try to be a decent neighbor. It was Tuesday. Sun already beat down like it had a personal vendetta, and the air in Fort Worth was thick enough to chew. I'd been up since 6 a.m., sipping on gas station coffee that tasted more like regret than caffeine. I was wearing my work gloves, not because I had a job to do. Lord knows I wasn't paid for it, but because Miss Irene, my 84-year-old neighbor with the walker and the sweetest peach cobbler this side of Texas, had weeds crawling up her porch like they were trying to move in. So there I was, sweat running down my neck, spreading mulch around her hedges like I was prepping for the garden club awards. Not because anyone asked, not because I needed the praise, but because Miss Irene had fallen last month trying to fix her own mailbox. Nobody else in this stuck-up, vinyl-sided suburb so much as blinked. But me, I believe in community. I believe in showing up, especially for our elders. That's when I heard it. Click, click, click. The unmistakable sound of aggression in designer sandals. I turned, and there she was. Hair so blonde it could have been mistaken for vengeance. Pink polo shirt tucked into white pants so stiff they had to be angry. Lipstick like a warning flare. Karen. Her name ain't Karen, of course. I think it's Deborah or Dawn or something that rhymes with HOA. But in every sense of the word, the stare, the stance, the clipped tone like she was about to file a complaint with God. She was Karen. And let me tell you, she was locked and loaded. Excuse me. She barked like she owned the zip code. What are you doing? I paused, wiped my forehead, and gave her the calmest version of my southern hospitality. Morning. Just helping Miss Irene with her yard. She didn't blink. Why? That why wasn't curiosity. It was suspicion with a side of accusation. Like I'd been caught trying to graffiti the mailbox with kindness. Because she asked? I offered, trying to keep it polite. She folded her arms like I just confessed to a felony. Well, this is a respectable neighborhood. We don't need yard help crawling around like landscapers. This isn't one of those areas. Now let me pause right here and say this. I'm a 52-year-old black man. Been through more in my life than HOA meetings and curtain twitchers. Served my community. Raised a daughter. Worked 2 jobs most of my adult life. Paid off a mortgage with sweat and stubbornness. So when she said that, when she looked down at me, literally down because I was still kneeling with a hand trowel, and dropped that tone like I was some kind of background character in her suburban fairy tale, that cut deep. I'm sorry, what area do you think this is? She blinked, surprised I responded. You know what I mean. I just think people should know their place. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. So now she's the voice of the people? I stood up real slow, took my time dusting off my gloves, looked her dead in the eyes and said, well, my place is right there. I pointed to my house, the little beige ranch on the corner with the perfectly trimmed hedge and the American flag waving out front. And Miss Irene's porch doesn't seem to mind me one bit. She smiled. That tight-lipped, I will absolutely call someone smile. Good for you, she said, turning on her heel. But if you're going to play the servant, don't be surprised when people treat you like one. That should have been the end of it, right? Wrong. Because the next day, I had a notice taped to my door from the HOA. Apparently, there had been complaints about unauthorized work being done on a property not my own. I was warned that continuing to engage in labor activities outside of my designated property line could result in fines. Fines for helping a senior clean up her yard. Couldn't believe it. I thought it was a prank at first. Called the HOA number just to hear someone's voice tremble as they read the rulebook like scripture. They really tried to dress it up in legalese, but the message was clear. Stop acting like you belong. I tried to shake it off. Told myself I wasn't going to let this woman, this system, get to me, but the universe wasn't done showing out. That Saturday morning, I woke up to find my driveway blocked. Somebody had moved bright orange cones to the mouth of it, with a sign that read, "Temporary Work Zone. Access Restricted." Now, I hadn't hired no contractor. Miss Irene sure didn't. But guess who did? That's right. Karen and her husband Todd, who somehow always looks like he's halfway through saying something offensive, had apparently reported a pothole hazard near my curb. The city said it wasn't their cones. HOA said they hadn't authorized anything. Meanwhile, I had to park on the street like I was some visitor in my own damn life. I tried talking to other neighbors. Some shrugged. Some mumbled about not wanting trouble. One whispered, "You know how she is." And you know what? I do. Because it's never just one Karen. It's the whole system that lets her thrive. It's the meetings behind closed doors, the unspoken standards, the way they smile at your face and circle your house on Google Maps later. And if you think that's an exaggeration, try getting a warning letter about unapproved modifications because you installed a solar light near your mailbox. Yeah, that happened too. I tried to keep my dignity. I really did. But then came the HOA meeting. They hold it at the community center once a month under the watchful eyes of bad coffee and folding chairs. I walked in with my folder of notices ready to explain myself. Karen was on the board. Of course she was. She sat dead center, smiling like she was about to host a bake sale instead of preside over a kangaroo court. "We're here to discuss Mr. Langston's violations," she chirped, reading from the paper like it was the gospel. They let me speak, technically. And by that I mean they let me talk while staring at me like I was chewing with my mouth open. I explained how I was just helping Miss Irene. How I had no intention of breaking any rules. How I wasn't soliciting labor or engaging in business. I was being neighborly. Karen tilted her head. "Mr. Langston, we all appreciate kindness. But this community has standards. And we simply can't have informal workers setting precedents." Informal workers. Like I was a bootleg gardener out here selling mulch by the scoop. I left that meeting with a second warning, a $75 compliance fee, and a burning fire in my chest that coffee couldn't put out. That night, I sat on my porch. Watched the sun dip low behind the plastic perfection of vinyl fences and beige rooftops. Thought about everything, my daughter back in Dallas, my mom's voice in my head saying, "Don't let small minds shrink your spirit," and how it always seems like the ones doing the most harm sleep just fine at night. I ain't lose my temper. I sharpened it. They wanted me to know my place? Fine. I was about to remind them whose name was on the deed. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how the story unfolds. Stick around, it only gets deeper from here. You ever feel like the rules don't apply to everybody, just to you? Because by the time Friday rolled around, I had a stack of HOA letters thicker than the Bible, a warning on my trash bins not being properly concealed, and a fine for overgrown vegetation, which, I kid you not, was a single weed poking through the side of my driveway like it was testing the air for drama. And Karen? Oh, she was just getting started. It was noon when I heard the knock. Not a friendly knock. A "we got a problem" knock. I opened the door and there stood two men in khakis and polo shirts, official as pressed beige can be. One had a clipboard. The other had a smirk. "Mr. Langston? We're here to inspect your front lawn for violations." I blinked. Violations of what, common sense? They didn't laugh. Clipboard guy adjusted his glasses like I had offended the Constitution. "There have been several anonymous reports." Here we go. Anonymous, huh? Regarding improper use of gardening fixtures, non-compliant flag placement, and potential unauthorized visitors. Hold up. Unauthorized visitors? Who exactly do y'all think I'm running over here, a nightclub? He didn't answer. Just scribbled something on the sheet like I'd confessed to running an underground barbecue ring. And the kicker? Miss Irene had just left my porch 5 minutes before. She came by to drop off sweet tea and say thank you, and now it was suddenly suspicious I had company? They walked around my property like I was applying for citizenship. Measured the angle of my birdbath. Asked about the brand of mulch. Took photos of my porch chairs. And the whole time I could feel her eyes. Karen was watching from across the street. Sipping lemonade, sunglasses on, pretending to prune her roses with the passion of a spy movie villain. Every so often she'd look up, see me watching, and smile like she was the one doing me a favor. I don't know what was worse, the surveillance or the smug satisfaction that came with it. Now, I've had my dignity tested before. Life's thrown harder punches than Karen's fake HOA goons. But this was different. This was methodical. Strategic. A slow grind to make me snap. To make me leave. They weren't just enforcing rules. They were trying to remind me, you don't belong here. And they picked the wrong man for that job. That night, I got a message from someone I didn't expect, Jamie, one of the younger neighbors 2 houses down. Mid-30s, white guy, drives a Prius and wears cargo shorts year-round. Always seemed decent if a little too quiet. He texted me. "Hey, just wanted to say I saw what happened earlier. I think it's wrong. If you need anything, I'm around." Now that might not sound like much, but trust me, in neighborhoods like this, silence is the main language. "So anyone breaking it?" That meant something. I replied, "Appreciate it. I might take you up on that." 5 minutes later, he walked over with a beer and a face full of guilt. "Look, I've been here 6 years. And I'll be real with you, I've seen them do this before. Not this bad, but they target people." "People like me?" I asked. He nodded. "There was a family back in 19, mixed couple, 2 little girls. Karen said their Christmas lights were too ethnic. Next thing you know, code violations every week." I almost dropped my drink. What the hell is an ethnic Christmas light? Exactly. But nobody said anything. Because if you push back, they turn on you. That conversation burned in me for hours. I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning like it had somewhere to go, wondering what would have happened if I hadn't stood up to her that first day. Would they have left me alone if I'd smiled, nodded, and disappeared? Nah. Because some people don't want peace. They want power. And they don't know what to do when it doesn't work. Next morning, I decided I wasn't playing defense no more. I started small, posted in the neighborhood app about HOA overreach and harassment. Oh boy, the comments rolled in like summer thunder. Some folks clapped back. "If you don't like it, move. Rules are rules. Stop playing the victim." But others? They spoke up. An older woman named Tanya said they fined her $200 for hanging wind chimes. A man named Reggie said his application for solar panels was denied after his white neighbor got approval just a month earlier. This wasn't just a Karen problem. It was a pattern. And I was done ignoring it. That week, I filed an official complaint not just to the HOA but to the county ombudsman and the state housing committee. I cited discrimination, named names, attached the photos, the letters, the timestamps, the inspector's clipboard notes. Even Miss Irene agreed to write a statement. I mailed it certified, tracked the delivery like it was an Amazon package full of karma. And guess who noticed? Yup. Karen came marching across the street like a rooster in heels, her lips tighter than a bank vault. "Is it true you've been spreading lies about the HOA? Is it true you think human kindness is a zoning violation?" She bristled. "We're a community, Mr. Langston. You don't get to cause division just because." "Because I wouldn't bow down?" She stepped back, her face tight. "I knew your type the moment I saw you." I leaned in, my voice low. "Funny. I knew yours the second you called me a servant." That night, my mailbox got knocked down. Coincidence? Maybe. Maybe it was the wind. Maybe a runaway tire. Maybe karma tripped over her own pettiness. I didn't report it. I rebuilt it. Stronger. Taller. With a custom black iron box that cost $275 and stood like a monument to stubbornness. Engraved it too. Still standing. But even that wasn't the end. Because by Friday, I got a visit that made my blood run cold. Code enforcement. Not HOA. Not Clipboard Brothers city officials. Karen had reported my home as non-compliant due to structural concerns. Claimed my roof was visibly deteriorating, which was wild considering I replaced the shingles last fall. They circled my house. Took more photos. Asked more questions. Left me with a citation and a hearing date. I stared at the paper, then at her porch. Karen didn't wave this time. She just sipped her drink and watched. I went back inside, sat on my worn leather couch and stared at the wall like it owed me answers. But I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just whispered to myself. "All right, you want a war? I'll show you what happens when you pick a fight with the wrong one. This is the breaking point. Everything's about to explode. You've waited for the moment when the hero finally flips the script, and that moment is next. Stick around. The climax is coming, and trust me, you'll want a front row seat." You ever look at someone and realize they mistook your patience for weakness? Because by Monday morning, after weeks of warnings, fines, drive-by inspections, and watching Karen parade her HOA authority like she'd been sworn into Congress, I finally snapped. But not with rage. Not with fists. I snapped with focus. See, I come from a long line of folks who never had the luxury to fight loud. My granddad used to say, if they block the front door, you learn to buy the whole building. So that's exactly what I did. It started with a call to my cousin Myron down in Houston. Now, Myron isn't just family, he's the guy. Real estate broker with a memory like a vault and a nose for undervalued property like a bloodhound in a three-piece suit. He eats zoning laws for breakfast. I told him what was happening, from Karen's servant comment to the mailbox takedown to the city code violations that magically appeared after I filed complaints. He didn't ask questions. "Send me your HOA's parcel map," he said. "And send it tonight." I did. By 8 a.m. the next day, I had a text from him that read, "Found something. Call me. This ain't public record stuff." Turns out Karen had a daughter, Ashley. Blonde, early 30s, corporate smile, married to a man who probably says synergy without irony. They bought one of the newer homes in the back of the neighborhood, tucked near the golf cart path. Ashley wasn't part of the HOA, too busy with charity brunches and online Pilates. But guess what? That beautiful house of theirs was listed as pending on a private sale portal. And guess who had the inside track? Myron. Apparently, Ashley and her husband were trying to sell quietly, not because of finances, but because they were planning a move across state lines. He'd gotten a job offer and they didn't want to deal with the noise. Noise like her mother's crusade against me. So I made a move. Called Myron back and said 7 words that felt like pouring sweet tea over a burn. "Buy it. Don't use my name yet." Now, if you've never bought a house in a petty war, let me tell you, it hits different. You're not just getting walls and square footage. You're getting power, presence. You're turning the battlefield into your backyard. Within 48 hours, Myron had it locked down in a shell company with my initials buried in legal paperwork so deep even the devil's accountant couldn't find it. We didn't even lowball. We paid full price. Quiet. Fast. Clean. Because this wasn't about saving money. This was about taking up space. While the deal finalized behind the scenes, things on the surface kept spiraling. Karen doubled down like she owned time itself. She had my trash bins tagged again. Claimed I was operating a business because I fixed Miss Irene's screen door. And cherry on top, filed a disturbance complaint after I dared to mow my lawn during what she called designated quiet hours, which, according to the letter, were now 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Tell me when exactly a man is supposed to mow in Texas summer if not early morning? Then came the final insult. I was sitting on my porch sipping lemonade, trying to keep cool, when she strutted across the lawn like the sheriff of a lawless land. "No knock. No warning. Just so you know," she said, sunglasses glinting, "we're preparing to formally review your residency status in the HOA. Excuse me. There have been concerns that perhaps your situation is incompatible with our community values. Let me break that down for you in plain English." She was trying to scare me into selling my home. She didn't want my flowers, my porch, my pride, or my presence anywhere near her version of suburbia. "You've got 1 week," she said, with that polished smug smile. "Maybe it's time to move somewhere more fitting." And just like that, she turned around and walked back across the street like she'd just delivered scripture. But see, I smiled. And that scared her more than anything I could have said. Because the moment she tried to push me out was the exact moment I already owned her daughter's house. I hadn't planned to tell her. But now it felt necessary. So I waited until Thursday. Same day the deal closed. I was standing on the sidewalk when the moving trucks showed up, 2 big rigs reversing into Ashley's driveway. Karen came rushing out of her house like a smoke alarm went off in her backyard. "What is this? Why are they moving things out?" They didn't say anything. Ashley stepped out distracted, on the phone, barking instructions to the movers like a drill sergeant in Lululemon. Karen marched right up to her, whisper yelling, "Why didn't you tell me? Who's buying the house? Is it someone from the committee?" Ashley looked confused. "Some investor. I don't know. The broker said he made a cash offer." "It's done, Mom. You're not on the deed." Karen turned, scanning the street, frantic. Then her eyes landed on me. I gave her a nod. Nothing big. Just a calm, polite, bless your heart nod. She marched up like thunder on heels. "Was it you? Tell me it wasn't you." "I don't know what you mean," I said, sipping my tea. "You bought it. I know you did. You think this is funny? You think this is a game?" I took another sip. "No, Karen. I think this is real estate." Her face did something I've only seen once before, at a poker table in Biloxi when a man realized he'd gone all in on a losing hand. She didn't scream, didn't cry. She just stood there, frozen. Because in that moment, everything she believed about control, about power, about her neighborhood cracked. But I wasn't done yet. I looked at her, leaned just close enough, and whispered, "You tried to evict me from this street. Now I own your legacy." She blinked. "Excuse me? Your daughter's house? It's mine now. You told me to know my place. And I did." "What does that even mean?" "It means Next time you visit your grandkids, you better knock. And I walked away, back to my porch, back to my home, the one they tried to push me out of. But this story isn't over, because what happened next? That shook the whole damn neighborhood. Stay right here, you need to see how this ends. You'd think that after buying her daughter's house, the same one Karen bragged about like it came with royalty in the deed, things would settle down. But no. See, the moment I closed that deal, I didn't just buy property. I bought presence. I became unignorable. And that, more than anything, is what rattled her. The day after the move, she didn't come outside. Not to check the mailbox. Not to trim her roses. Not even to stare disapprovingly at me from across the lawn like I was tracking mud across her memory. It was quiet. Too quiet. And you know what? That silence was louder than any insult she'd ever flung my way. I didn't celebrate. Not yet. Because what Karen feared most wasn't losing a house. It was losing control of the narrative. And sure enough, by the end of that week, she found a way to speak again. Not through words, but through paper. Another HOA summons. This time, for community misconduct. Misconduct? For what? Owning real estate? Breathing? They scheduled a full board review. They called it a matter of decorum. I called it what it was. A last gasp for control. I showed up to that meeting in my best charcoal gray blazer. Shirt pressed so clean you could have seen your reflection in the buttons. I wasn't dressing for them, I was dressing for me. For the man who got labeled a servant, for helping an old woman fix her flower bed. They didn't expect me to show up with a folder. But I came with evidence. Photos. Printouts. Copies of every violation I ever received, compared to ones other residents never got for the same things. Witness statements. And, yes, even a notarized testimony from Miss Irene, who still had more spirit in her pinky toe than half that board combined. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't flinch. Just read the facts, one by one. And when I was done, I closed the folder, looked Karen dead in the eye and said, "You thought I wouldn't fight. You thought I'd fold. But the problem is, I've played this game before. And I never lose when I play for something that matters." Silence. Not a sound. Even Todd, her husband, suddenly found the floor real interesting. The board didn't censure me. They couldn't. They knew what they were looking at wasn't a man with complaints. They were looking at a man with proof. A few days later, something strange happened. Karen knocked. Yup. Same front porch she once criticized for being too cluttered. Same man she tried to fine into submission. There she was, standing awkwardly, clutching a tray of lemon bars like it could erase everything. I wanted to apologize. That was all she said. No speech. No breakdown. Just that, in a voice smaller than I'd ever heard come out of her. I didn't take the lemon bars. But I nodded. Not for her sake. For mine. Because I'd learned something important in all this. Some battles you win loud. Others you win by standing so firm, they can't move you even when they try. Later that week, something even more unexpected happened. Jamie, remember the young guy who came over with a beer? Stopped by with a few of the neighbors. They'd started talking. Started remembering their own experiences. Started realizing this neighborhood didn't belong to a few power-hungry rulemakers. It belonged to all of us. Together, we filed for a community meeting to restructure the HOA board. And guess what? We got the votes. Karen resigned a week later. Not with a bang. Not with a scene. Just gone. Her name removed from the roster like a stain finally washed out. Now, I sit on this porch and smile. The birds sound a little louder now. The breeze feels warmer. Miss Irene's got her wind chimes up, and no one's tried to fine her for it. That custom mailbox I built? Still standing tall. Jamie's out here planting fruit trees with his kids. Tanya's running a yoga class on her lawn for the seniors. And me? I'm still mowing my lawn at 7 a.m. sharp. Just because I can. You see, the house was never the point. It was the symbol. The line in the sand. A reminder that sometimes you don't have to raise your voice to raise your presence. Sometimes the best way to beat the system is to buy it out from under them, then invite the neighborhood over for sweet tea on your terms. Because I wasn't just defending my yard. I was defending my right to belong. And now, they know exactly whose name is on the deed, and on the story they'll be telling for years.